It was getting to be about midsummer. I was feeling alright. Sleeping through another night. Well, the trade caravan milled around nearby. Hamlet was happy as could be. I woke up. Time for a little more food. The usual routine. Decided to build myself another shelf. Keep my booze and smoke leaf joints in. That keeps them close by. They aren't all sitting around somewhere. And my hops were ready. I had to do some harvesting on that. Turns out, being stone hinders a man's ability to harvest plants. I had quite a few botches on that. After that, there was a bunch of coffee beans around. I decided to make a bunch of coffee with them. Whole time I was thinking about heading out, maybe taking care of that enemy outpost nearby, getting some goodies from one of my allies. Made coffee for a while, had a meal, and then I decided to butcher up some of those critters that were around and make some food. That was all I did all day. After that, I was back to bed. Upon waking, it was about 2 a.m. Had a little bit of food. Had another trade caravan show up. This time it was a combat supplier. And that was intriguing. I kept right on cooking, trying to get through all the meat I had. Eventually, the trade caravan was close enough. I decided to run out and talk to them. Bought a bunch of the junky weapons I had. I thought about buying some stuff off them. In the end, I didn't. They did have a nice helmet though. Way better than the one I was sporting. Way more protection. So I did buy that, even though it was not cheap. After that, I got back to cooking for a bit. Before deciding to put on my fancy new helmet. It was pretty nice. I didn't like that it concealed my features. But it was what it was. Better than taking a shot in the face. Having an ear blown off. I had a beer, cooked, cleaned. Did some more butchering when I needed more meat. Then it was time to make some beer. I heard a critter die on one of my traps. And it was a rat. I had a little bit of steel stockpiled, so I wasn't terribly worried about it. Made some more wort. Had myself some coffee. Then it was time to harvest some plants. A smoke leaf would come due. Just then, some girl named Cat decided to join me. Seemed like an alright type. Sadly, I wasn't going to let her hang around very long. She had some right nice looking meals though. So while I was sitting having a beer, she came running on up. Those traders left and gave me a gift. And that was right nice of them. I told Kat she couldn't stay. She was nice enough to leave me her meals before taking off. Those traders had left me a nice bit of tribal wear made out of some kind of thick warm wool. I was in bed. I was going to have to wait till the next morning. First thing I did there, got up, had some food, and did a little cleaning before retrieving that tribal wear. I finished planting the smoke leaf, got it all hauled in, made a little more wort, and I decided to dig a bunch of graves, seeing as I was getting attacked more frequently than not these days. Smoked a smoke leaf joint, and finished up the graves. After that, there was some steel laying outside still. Decided I better haul that in, especially since I needed a new trap built. So I got to building that. That welder does come in handy. While doing some repairs to the outside wall of the home, a bunch of milk fell out of the sky. So I decided I'd better run over and retrieve that. Didn't want it to go to waste. It was a pretty warm day, but this helmet did a decent job keeping me cool. When I got back in, I sat down and had one of them meals that girl had left me. It was pretty delicious. Better than the fare I'd been cooking, even though I'm not one for fancy food. I made some smoke leaf joints. Decided to put some of my beer in the barrel. Some of my other beer could come out of the barrels, which was pretty awesome. I had a pretty solid stockpile of beer going. I made a few more joints and then I was off to bed. Woke up at about 3 a.m. Ate myself another one of them fancy meals and got right back to making smoked leaf joints. Occasionally stopping to do a little bit of cleaning. My workroom was quite the mess. At that point, it occurred to me, be a good time, being that it was morning and all, get out, pay a visit to that enemy outpost nearby. I packed up some pemmican, my bedroll, didn't take much else. I was ready to get on out of here. This base should take care of itself. The trap seemed to do a fine job. I told Hamlet not to go outside unless it was absolutely necessary. He's a good boy. I'm sure he'll listen. So I hit the road. Most of my trek was going to be through wilderness, including some mountains. A bedroll was going to be handy. Some silver fell out of the sky while I was out and about. Wasn't terribly worried about it. But it occurred to me, Hamlet would probably pick that up for me. I told him he could go outside if the situation arose. I told him not to get himself killed. Sure enough, that crazy good dog was running around picking up all that silver and putting it in the proper spot for me. That was dang nice of him. I had debated on bringing him with, but I did not want him to get hurt out on the road. Didn't take him long. He got all that silver brought in. Best dog you ever had. I spent a night on the road. Next morning, I got over to that outpost. I had to be right sneaky though. A couple fellas in there. Neither of them had any guns, which was fortunate, because I did have a gun, and it was a nice one. So I planned my assault. I figured if I took one of them down, the other would probably panic and run away. That was a nice open area. I could get a good clean shot, cross some water, no vegetation in the way. And I stood around. Didn't take long. One of them came on out. I started giving him the business. My aim was a little off. I was nervous, but didn't take much, and down he went. The other one, she was coming at me quick, so I gave her the business too. She had some meals on her. Both of them did, actually. So I decided to pick those up. Set up a little spot. Put all the nice stuff they had around here. What I was going to take with me. This quest was completed. And that was nice. Decided I was going to deconstruct their solar power. I was feeling pretty happy. I had removed some evil from the world once again. These two jerks didn't much decide to live. Sure enough, those goodies had arrived back home. But I was pretty sure, once again, reliable Hamlet could take care of that for me. While I was taking apart that solar generator, lightning was flashing, things were getting pretty crazy. I looked around their little base here. Didn't see too much of interest otherwise. And then I decided I was going to get on out. Taking what I can. I got a couple components. Tried to take some steel, but it was just too heavy. They had some berries laying around. And some lamps. I didn't want to load myself too heavy, so I didn't get too greedy. I decided I was going to take a trip around and visit one of my neighbors here. Seemed like they might have some stuff to trade, and I was out and about anyways, so why not? We're mostly friendly with each other. Hamlet was working on hauling my stuff in right about that time. Such a good boy. I cannot say what I would do without that dog. Spent the night near the mountains. Turns out a meteor had crashed near my home. It was steel. Well, it wasn't too big of a deal. Didn't destroy anything. Didn't set crazy robots loose. Did have a rabbit die on one of my traps while I was gone. Once again, good old Hamlet come in handy there. Get that rabbit hauled inside, and I wouldn't be terribly upset if he decided to eat that rabbit. He sure did deserve it. So I was making my way through the mountains, which was a slow and arduous process. All kinds of stuff going on back home. I found extra spacecraft chunks when I got back that weren't there when I left. I was in dire need of some recreation, I can tell you that. It was nice to be outside. Should have brought a horseshoe pin or something with me. I got a call on my walkie-talkie saying somebody wanted some help back home. But I wasn't there to offer it, so I said no. Changed my mind about visiting my neighbor. Mostly because I didn't have any money. About that time, Hamlet came down with a flu or something, and 3 more dogs had joined me. They're running around my base, acting like madmen, crazy little things, completely unruly, never been tamed. I didn't really want any more dogs, so I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them, but I couldn't have them eating all my food in my absence. Fortunately, they would stay out. There was a raid while I was gone too. A whole bunch of people showed up. 5 of them this time, all with guns. I got worried for my dogs, but I figured they'd be smart enough to protect themselves. Hamlet would stay inside, so as long as they didn't get through the traps, I'd be alright. I was worried for Hamlet, being that he had the flu, needed tending bad if he was going to pull through. I'd be right sad if he did not make it. Sure enough, the base protected itself. Those idiot pirates got themselves killed on my traps. One of them got his head cut clean off. And I gave those dogs some food, so I wasn't terribly upset about it. They'd be eating them humans instead of my own food, so that was alright. One of those dogs turns out was sick. Came down with some kind of dog plague. It sure was madness. Things would just fall apart if you're not home. I probably should have shut my power off. No telling what could go wrong. But eventually I made it back. I was going to make it my priority. We'll get Hamlet tended. I was even going to use some good meds on him. Did not want to risk that dog dying. My only real companion in the world. So I tended him well with the medicine, got him fed, and I was pretty sure after that he'd come through just fine. Dropped off all the junk I'd picked up, set up that insanely nice statue. It did look a lot like me, and that was pretty cool. Eventually I'd get around to putting that guy up. I had a plan for it. Next I had to haul all the stuff from them dead pirates. They had a bunch of weapons. But I was tired. It had been a long day. I woke up about 4 a.m., had some food. Tended the plague dog. I did not want that fella getting anywhere near Hamlet. Decided I was going to leave those pirate bodies outside. The dogs would eat them. That's A-okay with me at this point. Don't need these jerks coming around causing trouble. My crops were coming due by then. I got a bunch more hops, a bunch of potatoes, and that was pretty awesome. My air conditioner broke down, and it was a little bit warm out. Of course, Hamlet needs constant attention, the tending and the feeding. I have to stay on top of that is a number 1 priority, as well as feeding myself periodically. Plague dog seemed to be back on his feet, and that was good. I got my potatoes in the ground, started working on the hops. It was about 6 a.m. The sun went away early. It seemed like there was some kind of eclipse on. I decided to sit down and have a nice beer before going to bed. And Hamlet was recovering right well. It was a good thing I didn't decide to visit those neighbors. When I woke up, once again it was about 4 a.m. Had some food, fed Hamlet some nice milk. I worked on planting my hops a little more till that was done. Hamlet needed some training at that point. Turns out being sick make a dog forget how to do stuff. So I worked with him, and he was happy to have the attention. Butchered up some animals. When I got back to making hops, as all the power went out. Wasn't the end of the world since I didn't need it, but fixed my AC that was down. I decided I should probably get my traps put back up, lest I get attacked again. It's going to be running low on steel after this. And while going out to work on those traps, a mad timber wolf showed up, hell-bent on getting a piece of me. And he ignored my dogs and died on one of my traps, which I was hiding behind. I decided the timber wolf was going to come on inside, being that was something I could eat without too much shame. Be weird to feed it to Hamlet, but if he ate it, meh, that's his problem, I guess. He won't know the difference. I butchered the timber wolf, got a fair amount of meat out of him, and I was back to making hops for a quick minute before refocusing on my traps. They were almost done, but it was time to hit the hay once again. Some more of those crazy plants sprouted outside while I was sleeping. They were everywhere. If this stuff's worth anything, I was sitting on a gold mine here. Hamlet seemed to be back to his normal self. A tiny bit warmer than he should be feverish-wise, but otherwise moving around and seemingly happy. So when I woke up about 6 a.m., I had some food, did some cleaning, and I decided during the night I was going to need more steel. I also thought it'd be cool if I trained some of these big pack animals for when I go out traveling. I could make my own little trade caravan. I didn't have much success at that though. When I got back inside, I finally set up that fancy statue. Made some more wart out of all those hops I had laying around and finished my last trap after that. Then I decided, with this wart, I should probably get to turning that into beer, and that's what I did. I got nuzzled by Hamlet. He's such a good boy. I get all giddy thinking about him. By then, I was really low on steel. Decided I'd have to do some mining here. Those dogs were swarming around me like crazy. But I was interested in nabbing some of those plants. Turns out the dogs really like them. As soon as you harvest them, those dogs run over there and eat them. I harvested one, then I was off to hit the hay once again. While I was in bed, more chunks of spacecraft fell out of the sky. I heard it crash down. When I woke up, I decided I was going to lay and do some cloud watching. I was a little bit cool, but I had some warm gear on, was feeling alright. After that, I harvested away on those plants. There was so much of it, I might get more if I harvested it sooner. So I got one patch of it taken care of, picked it all up so the dogs didn't eat it all. I wish I could train those bad boys to attack without getting too attached to them. After getting that ambrosia brought back in, had some food, a little bit of smoke leaf. Well, I was back outside of the homestead and get the rest of those plants brought in, which once again, the dogs do enjoy. Those dogs are wild, mating like crazy, eating ambrosia. They're having the good life out there for the minute. Not sure it's gonna last. Doesn't seem like a good place for animals on this planet. I did not want them in my home here. It was just seemed like too much work, too many mouths to feed. So for now, I was leaving them outside. The sky started changing color. Some kind of aurora was on as I went to bed that night. When I woke up, I ate some potatoes raw, had myself a beer, decided to harvest more smoke leaf, which was finally ready again. Poor red fox had died, one of my traps in the night. So I had to pick him up and rebuild my trap at some point here. In the meantime, though, there was smoke leaf to plant. Once that was done, I got the fox, got him harvested, worked on rebuilding that trap for the umpteenth time. Once the trap was rebuilt, steel became a priority once again, and I was back to mining by the light of my torch. While mining, some cargo pods dropped down, some kind of fruit drink, something I'd never tried before. Hopefully it didn't make me sick. After mining for quite a while, decided I was going to have to nab that fruit drink. And that's just what I did. Decided to get it brought in. And also bring in some of that steel that was laying around before I went inside. There was dogs laying everywhere outside. I came back out, do a little bit of midnight mining by torchlight. Around about that time, female goat self-tamed. I didn't want a goat. I didn't really want these dogs either. So I decided to slaughter the goat. Think about what to do about the dogs. A wild naked fella ran in, just hanging out. I decided to see if I could bring him back to civilization at some point. In the meantime, though, I decided to futz around, play some chess, do a little bit of cleaning, and then I was off to bed. All that mining makes a guy tired. Takuya was that wild fella's name, and he just liked to mill about, eat random food. I wish those dogs would attach themselves to him, get on out of here. But that was outside of my control. While sleeping, that stupid goat wandered into my bedroom, clomping around, making a mess. I was going to prioritize getting rid of her first thing in the morning. That's what I did. Then I ate some pemmican, smoked a little doob, decided to get off, see about taming that wild man. He seemed like an alright guy, actually. Decided to join me right away. He really wanted my fancy steel helmet, but I did not want to give him that. So I gave him one of them cruddy guns one of those people had dropped. And then I gave him the word that he couldn't stay. But he was happy to have his senses restored as I sent him on his way with a gun to protect himself. It wasn't terribly cold, but it wasn't warm. I felt bad for him being naked, but I didn't have any clothes around that I cared to give him. So I got back to mining for a while. And I mined all day. It was getting to be pretty late. That was right about the time Catastrophe struck. One of my power cables zapped, and my base was on fire. This was a potential disaster. Once upon a time, I was a volunteer firefighter back on Earth, and I knew you couldn't just run into a burning building without getting yourself killed real quick. So I decided I was going to have to rip apart the walls to allow cool air in. This was going to take some planning if I was going to survive. Hopefully I wasn't going to lose all my food here, but chances weren't good. So I planned on doing some ripping apart of the walls, ripping apart of the floors, all this stupid wooden structure, dry and crisp, burns like nobody's business. I was running back in. I'd thought to bring some steel back. That'll save me a trip later if there's anything left over here. And when I got back, decided there was going to have to be more walls ripped down. So I made it my first priority, rather than running into a room that was going to kill me. Get a bunch of the walls taken down. This was catastrophic. That fire was spreading right fast. My food was burning. I started working on putting it out. Fortunately, the temperature stayed low. The stupid wooden floor and these stupid wooden walls. My butchering table was already destroyed. My cook stove was about to go next. Now it's removing floor, but sadly, all the stuff on top of the floor was burning like nobody's business. My ambrosia, my potatoes, my meat, my milk. Wasn't far away from my fruit juice. Everything was going up here. And I was so tired from a long day's work in the mine over there. This was going to be more than one man could deal with. This fire spread so fast, I had to end up having to focus on the things that were the most important. But I couldn't even get out because there was so much fire surrounding me. I had to run the long way around to keep the workroom from going up. And didn't want the temperature getting too high in there. I was working like a dog, trying to get the fire put out. Trying to keep it from spreading to something meaningful. Most of my kitchen, my hanging out room, my fancy statue was about to start on fire. This was a hellish mess, a horrible place to be. My mood was tanking fast, I was tired. Certainly wasn't anything pretty to look at while doing it. All my food just about burned up by now, which really sucked. Spent a lot of time on that. My fancy statue was on fire. Being that I'd gone through so much for it, I tried to find a way if I could get over there and save the thing. My nice table was burning. I saved the statue. My mood was tanking fast. There was a good chance I wasn't going to be able to deal with this before I decided to hell with it all and let it burn. Plants outside were going. There was a good chance this could spread over. Burned down my windmills. My second shelf had gone. Last of my food was about burnt up. Fortunately, I had a little bit in my pocket. I wasn't terribly worried about that. This was catastrophic. Where's the rain when you need it? I kept focusing on the important parts of this. Trying to anyways. It's hard to prioritize when you're in a crazy frenzy. I lost all my food except for one box of figs. I did my best to keep my workroom from burning up. Seemed like this fire'd never go out. I think it was finally reaching its conclusion. When it was finally out, and I breathed a real sigh of relief despite the smoke. It was so ugly. I was so upset. I ended up going straight to bed. Hamlet was running around in a panic. While sleeping, one of my dogs died. Turns out there was no food out there for him. I did feel right bad about that. But in the end, I just lost all my food. I think I was going to end up eating them dogs. Sad as it was, desperate times call for desperate measures. Also, while sleeping, my plants, which were nearly ready, all got sick due to some kind of blight. I decided I was going to have to get to that pretty quick. I was also going to have to get some kind of food together, since I didn't really have any around. I pulled the berries off a few bushes. Still wasn't feeling well. I was really upset about the whole mess. Then I decided it was going to be Cut and Plant City over here. Get rid of these darn blighted plants. Might as well get rid of the rest of them too while I'm at it. You know it's gonna spread before I can get to this mess. Another one of the dogs died. Once again, due to malnutrition. Turns out, you can't just leave dogs outside. They need food. The other one was doing alright. Harley. I wasn't worried about those dogs right now. I was stressed to the limit. I couldn't do much. Let myself relax for a quick minute. Cut out some plants and decided I really need to focus on dealing with this blight. But at this point, it felt like a lost cause. I decided to haul the dead dogs in. After that, it was time to cut out all the plants. The blight was spreading pretty fast. I could see it spreading, which was crazy, but as I was cutting them, it was spreading. I got it all handled, and then I had to get off the bed after one heck of a miserable day. What a mess this place had become. I was so happy with it before, and now it was kind of a nightmare. As I slept, I did not want to wake up to see another day.